and Young Adult Podcast.
All right. Welcome to podcast 140, everybody.
Welcome. Yes.
I just need to apologize to our entire audience for last week.
Well, we thought it was 138.
Ended up it was 139. The whole podcast, I was so confident that it was 138. And then it was not. It was 139.
Yeah.
So.
But this is podcast 140.
140.
Here we go.
This is it. This is a good one.
Yes, this is a good one. And I'm excited because we're going to start off with Lions picks.
Come on.
We know who our opponent is. The lowly Washington Commanders. I have a little problem, first of all, with their name. I thought football team was way better. Washington football team?
Yeah.
They should have kept that.
Yeah. Well,
That name was so bad. It was awesome.
I heard that they're potentially next year, the year after, going back to the Washington Redskins. I heard that.
Whatever they want to do is fine with me. I think football team was even better than Redskins.
I loved when I was so this is just totally side note. When I was a kid, my dad had a PlayStation, and I think it was the original gray PlayStation, and we had Madden, or I'm pretty sure it was Madden, some football game. I don't know if it wasn't Madden, what it was. My favorite team to be on whatever version of Madden that was, I mean, this is like early 2000s.
Yeah.
Was the Washington Redskins.
Yeah.
And I would play my dad, and whenever he would play as the Detroit Lions, now it was the early 2000s Detroit Lions, so they weren't good.
No.
I could always beat him as the Washington Redskins when he played as the Detroit Lions.
Do you remember you're like the best player on the Washington Redskins team?
I don't even remember.
I was curious.
I mean, I was probably like 7. But it's like a burned memory in my head of playing Madden and being the Washington Redskins and beating my dad. But honestly,
did you originally pick them because you like the colors or something like that, or what drew you to the Redskins when you were
I'm
like
not
7?
really sure.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I don't remember all of the details, but I remember sitting in my parents' bedroom. They had a TV in their bedroom, and the PlayStation was in there, and I remember playing Madden and beating my dad for the first time. I was as the Redskins, he was the Lions, and then kind of for a few years after that, that was the team that I picked when I played Madden.
Could you imagine playing for the Washington football team, and they're huddled up pre-game and they're getting excited to play football? Ever seen those hype videos of Penei Sewell?
Oh yeah, yeah.
Pumping up the linemen.
Yeah.
Maybe it's half an hour before the game starts.
Yep.
And he's like, "Put your hands in," and you're like, yeah. He's like, 1, 2, 3, go Lions! 1, 2, 3, go Lions!
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
And that's cool, right? Could you imagine you're playing for the Washington football team, and somebody's pumping you up, and they're like, "Put your hands in! 1, 2, 3, football team!" Could you imagine how pumped you'd be?
I'll be honest, football team probably is better than Commanders.
Yeah. Oh, I'd be like, 1, 2, 3, football team? Unexpectedly, yes.
Yeah.
Come on, right?
Right.
It's so generic, so broad. It just makes sense.
It's good. It's good. I like it.
1, 2, 3, football team.
Yeah, I can see it. I still think that the Redskins is a better name. Maybe just because of the nostalgia for me. I don't know.
I don't know either.
But anyway.
Who you got winning the game this week versus the Washington Commanders? Which, first of all, if you're going to go with military, go with the highest rank, generals. Couldn't even get that right.
That's true.
Washington, fourth best rank in military. Woo!
Yeah, I got the Lions. I got the Lions on Saturday. We got the Saturday night game. They're just over here railing on their name.
Why? I've thought about that. Commanders.
And so I got the Lions going.
All right, I need some good reasons. I mean, I know that you think we're going to win, but do you have reasons?
Yes, I do have reasons to think that we're going to win. I don't know if you have watched the Commanders at all this season.
Not really.
I've actually been a little bit intrigued by the Commanders this season, so I've been paying attention to them a little bit.
How many games have you watched?
Probably 5 or so.
Wow.
Of the Commanders games.
That's great. I'm leaning towards your expertise right now.
So because one of the big reasons was I was really intrigued with Jaden Daniels.
You liked him coming out of
I liked him coming out of LSU.
I can see that.
I thought he was a good quarterback at LSU.
You probably had the same kind of thoughts towards Caleb Williams and the Bears, right?
I did. Have very similar. I actually thought that Jaden Daniels might be a little better than Caleb Williams.
Absolutely. It's proven to be true, I think.
And yeah, and it's been true. And so I was just intrigued. I've been watching them. I think their coach, I'm blanking on his name right now.
Quinn?
Yeah. Is it Bob
Dan Quinn?
Dan Quinn, thank you. Dan Quinn, I think he's done a really good job with that team. But here's my thing why I think the Lions are going to be able to beat them on Saturday is I think that Jaden Daniels is a great rookie quarterback. I mean, he's been amazing. But I think he's also a rookie quarterback. And I think even in the game against the Bucs, you could see the Bucs defense, whenever they would get a little bit of pressure on him, he was making some mistakes.
Okay.
He was trying to take off and run on some plays where if he would have just stood in the pocket, he had receivers that were coming open and he was scrambling a little too much. Now, he's a great scrambler. I mean, he's fast. He's good. He's very good at it. But I think he was making some rookie mistakes against the Bucs. And I think the Lions are better than the Bucs.
I think we'll win the game because I think our offense is just too much for the Commanders' defense.
I agree.
I think we'll be able to run the ball well.
Yep.
Against them, which will keep possession. We'll keep possession.
Yeah.
And I think we'll be able to control the game offensively. I think that Commanders will score some touchdowns.
I do too. Yeah.
I think but I just think at the end of the day, our offense is just too much for the Commanders' defense to handle. I wish I knew off the top of my head some of the rankings of the Commanders' defense, but as the football season went on, I never heard a single media commentator talk about the Commanders' defense. I can't even name a single player on the Commanders' defense.
Yeah.
I can name 2 players for sure on their offense. So McLaurin, their wide receiver, and their quarterback Daniels.
Yeah. And they got a pretty good running back too, Robinson Jr.
Okay.
He's pretty good.
So, but I just think our offense is going to be too much for their defense. I think that's going to be the difference in the game.
Yeah, I would agree. And here's another big reason why I'm leaning towards the Lions is if you look at the game against Tampa, they won literally on a last-second doinker field goal to win the game.
Yeah.
And they controlled the time of possession during that game.
Which team?
The Commanders did.
Okay.
Quite a bit. I mean, it was like 35 minutes to 24 or 36 minutes to 24 minutes. So they had a decent advantage against.
And they still barely
won. Yeah. And I think the Lions are going to be able to control the time of possession. I think their offense is going to be able to stay out on the field, sustain long drives, and keep the Commanders' offense off the field.
Yeah.
A lot better than the Bucs were able to. I don't know if you watched the game. The Bucs had to basically solely rely on Baker Mayfield and Mike Evans.
Okay. All right.
There it is.
Go. Picks are in. Lions win.
Lions are going to win.
I hope we're right.
I hope we're right too.
So we are. Let's get into the meat of this.
Let's do it.
Let's do it. Podcast stew. Excuse me as I clear my throat. We are right in the middle of the fast. I must ask, how's it going for you?
It's going really good. I actually did something I've never done this before in a fast.
Yeah. What are you doing? I don't know.
So on Sunday, I decided to change up my fast. And because I felt like I wasn't accomplishing what I wanted to accomplish in the fast with the way I was doing it, especially as far as like prayer was going. And I just wasn't maybe spending as much time as I wanted to in prayer. And so I actually changed the way that I'm fasting and have completely stopped eating until like after work, so like 4:35 every day.
Yeah.
And that has really helped me intentionally spend more time in prayer.
Yeah.
And so I've been doing that the past few days, and it's been really, really good.
Yeah. What have been some of the just positive
I've been
things that have come from that?
Yeah. So I've been able to take like the time that I would normally spend maybe like making breakfast or during lunchtime here at work. You might have noticed I've been kind of missing the first 30, 40 minutes during the break room or lunchtime. And that's been because I've been off spending some just personal time in prayer and worship. And that's kind of not having the idea of, oh, like it's time to eat.
Yeah.
I'm just going to spend some time in prayer has really helped. I've even noticed literally just the past 2 days, felt much more connected in prayer specifically. And it's just been really, really good doing that for me.
That sounds good.
Yeah.
That sounds good. My fast is going good. I read 70 chapters in the Bible this morning.
70?
70. Yeah.
That's insane.
Yeah, I saw day 15 was 70 chapters.
Whew.
I'm hoping that it's the most.
The longest?
Yeah, I'm hoping it's the longest one. Now, they were all Psalms. So I am pretty much done with Psalms. Tomorrow, I think the first 6 or 7 chapters tomorrow are the end of Psalms, and then I get into Proverbs tomorrow.
Okay.
And so I've pretty much read all of Psalms in 2 days, I think, or
Wow.
2.5 days. So
That's awesome.
So yeah, I did 70 Psalms today. One of them was Psalm 119, which is the longest book in the Bible.
Longest chapter.
Yeah, yeah, you're right. Chapter, and so I did that. I did that one too.
Yeah, that's a big chapter.
Now, when you say 70 Psalms, like some of them are like one of them's like 3 verses.
Yeah,
That's so it's not like 70 large chapters, but I guess it was a lot of reading. I think it was the most reading so far, and so in order to get my reading done, I start reading at 6:15 in the morning, and I go for pretty much 1 hour straight. And
Okay.
of just straight reading for 1 hour straight. And I typically can get done like 80 to 90% of the daily reading done in that 1 hour time. So
Okay.
it's uninterrupted reading.
Yeah.
And then I will I will then read more on the way into work. And then if I still have a little bit more left, I've noticed I can get it pretty much all done by the time I drive home from work.
Okay.
So that's
Nice.
kind of been my rhythm. That's my rhythm. It's 1 hour of reading in the morning, and then a little bit on the way into work and a little bit on the way home from work, and I can get it all done. And I've noticed something, though, with this fast this time of year, trying to read the entire Bible in 30 days,
Yeah.
is that it requires a lot of reading, and so I'm not praying and worshiping as much.
Okay. Yeah.
So, and I kind of thought that would happen,
Yeah.
and it's not something that I'm not gonna do this next year because
Yeah.
I miss the extra prayer and worship
Yeah.
that I have implemented in the years past.
Right.
I've missed that a little bit.
Yeah. 100%.
And so there's that side of things. And so what happened last night, we get home from the prayer meeting last night.
Yeah.
And I started out watching the football game last night on TV, and then it came to halftime, and I was like, I wonder what my Bible reading is like for tomorrow.
Yeah.
So I checked, and I was like, 70 chapters. My goodness.
Yeah.
And I thought to myself, I better get a head start.
Okay. Yeah.
And so I grabbed the dog and my headphones, and I took during halftime. I did a circle around my neighborhood, and I got like however many chapters in. And I thought, okay, at least I have a head start. So I've even had to implement like 10:30 at night Bible reading in order to make sure I can get Bible reading done.
Yeah.
So it's been quite the discipline.
Yeah, I'm sure.
Yeah.
It sounds like you're doing a good job with that, though. I'm impressed.
I'm one day ahead.
Impressed.
Still one day ahead. So
Nice.
I did day 15 today, even though today's day 14, because today is January 14th.
Correct.
It's Tuesday.
It's Tuesday.
Tuesday.
That's right.
So,
So I've been doing something a little bit different. I've slowed down my Bible reading a little bit from in the years past. I think I was mentioning it last week where I actually started out accidentally reading like 11 and a half chapters the first like 3 days.
Yeah.
Or 2 days. And then I realized halfway through day 3, I'm like done with Matthew and it's day 3. This isn't making sense.
Yeah, you're going to finish it in like 12 days.
Yeah.
On that pace.
And so I've been but going through the Gospels and kind of about halfway-ish through Luke right now. And so still probably going to finish early and kind of start back over. But there's been some really awesome things. And one of the reasons why I wanted to do the Gospels specifically was I wanted to take these first 21 days, this time in January, and just focus on, man, I want to get to know Jesus more. That was kind of my focus. The reason why I picked the Gospels was that I want to get to know Jesus better. And there's been some things that I've noticed, and I've kind of seen them before, but as you kind of read it, as an expedited pace, I'm realizing, whoa, Jesus does this more often than maybe I realized. And it's something, one of them we talk about a little bit at church, and one of them I barely hear anybody talk about ever at church. And so I wanted to kind of put these to you and kind of maybe get your opinion, hear if you've thought about these, if you've heard people talk about them. Because these are things that Jesus would do. Are these things that we should do? Are they things that he did because he was the Son of God?
Some things Jesus did, we can't do.
Yes, that's true. That's true, right? I can't, transfigure on a mountain, That's just not going to happen. It'd be pretty cool, but I'm not Moses, Elijah, or Jesus. So there's that.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I've noticed, and there's a few times where I've heard people talk about this, but I think I've noticed way more than ever during this 21 days of praying, fasting, and reading that Jesus does so often is withdraw by himself to connect. And I think I noticed it maybe that it wasn't, and I've heard people talk, when he was going to the feed the 5,000 right before then, but it's like all the time he's going and he spends like all night by himself.
Yes.
And then doesn't even like show back up in the morning. People have to go look for him.
As a matter of fact, when I read the Gospels quickly, I noticed that Jesus would retreat for days on end.
Yeah.
And the disciples would go on journeys to find him.
Yes, to find him. Yeah. And I've been noticing that. I was like, whoa, Jesus does this a lot.
Yeah.
Where he's like, and it's like
intentional.
It's very intentional. And it's times where you would think, oh, you don't want to leave right now.
Yes.
Like, things are happening in this town. You want to stay right here. And Jesus is like, yeah, actually, I went away all night. The disciples had to look for me. They found me at noon the next day. Yeah. And they're like, Jesus, everybody's waiting for you. And he's like, yeah, we're actually going to the next town.
He is not stressed about the same things that people are stressed about.
Yeah, absolutely.
And you could tell he is, without words, making it known purposefully that he's not stressed.
Yeah. So I think it was yesterday morning, I was reading a story and I was like, I've read Matthew, I've read Mark, and I'm partway through Luke, so I'm like, I feel like
I'm starting to see trends.
Yeah, you're seeing the trends. Like I've read this story like 3 times now.
Yeah.
And it's where Jesus goes, he heals Peter's mother-in-law, and then word gets out about it. So everybody starts bringing their sick people to Jesus. And
do you remember what town is he in? Do you remember?
I think he's in Capernaum.
Okay.
I think it could be
so they're
somewhere in Galilee, somewhere in that region.
They're starting to bring people to Capernaum. They're starting
to bring people to him, and he's healing everybody. He's casting out demons, and then he leaves, and they literally can't find him until sometime late in the morning the next day. And he said, and they're like, everybody is gathering. Like, you'd think this is a preacher's dream. Like,
Yes.
the word is out. People are showing up. Everybody's ready to hear what you have to say. And he said, actually, well, we're going to the next town. And I was,
And he makes this decision after separating himself for the whole night, right?
yes.
Yeah.
And then he says something so interesting because he says, because this is why I have come. And I don't know, for some reason, that story, like reading it over and over again, of all the things in the gospel, which it's been awesome just consuming so much of Jesus' content, but that thing has just stood out to me every time that I've read it. For some reason, he goes away, maybe he gets this word from God, or he just spends time with the Father and he realizes, man, we're gonna go to the next town. This thing needs to be bigger than just this place. I don't know what it is, but
Yeah.
it's been really interesting to me, and I wanted to kind of see maybe what are your thoughts on that?
Yeah.
Is that
I've
something we should be
studied this.
doing? What's going
Yeah.
on?
So I've studied this. Now let me put it this way to answer some of your questions about like, is this something we should be doing? I think I can answer that. I think the answer is yes. It is something we should be doing. Now, there was limitations put on Jesus by his heavenly Father on purpose. So Jesus is coming to this earth as the most powerful being ever.
Yeah.
He could have lived his life in a very different way that would have been wrong.
Right.
Now, he could have used his power and his wisdom to gather unto himself the world. And he could have done it quickly and easily.
Right.
And he could have used his wisdom to astound people, but all of it would have been wrong.
Yeah.
None of it would have been according to the Father's will. So here's the most important aspect of Jesus' ministry that we must understand is that people must come to Jesus with faith, which is very unique into how Jesus had to present himself, teach, and do miracles.
Oh, yeah.
Faith. So why doesn't Jesus just walk around like a stud?
Yeah.
Healed, healed, healed. I am God. Healed, healed, healed. I am the Savior of the universe. Why doesn't he just go around doing that?
Right. Yeah, I almost think of like Bruce Almighty. Like,
Absolutely.
Like walking on water, monkeys coming out of your butt. Like,
Bees in your bonnet, whatever he does, right?
yeah.
Instead, Jesus goes around teaching with parables,
Yeah.
healing for certain amounts of time, and then skedaddling.
Yeah. Right.
Skedaddling,
Yeah.
skedaddling out of town right as soon as they're about to crown him with all the worship and praise and adoration.
Yeah.
Oh,
Well,
there's a reason.
Even in, I just read this, I think it's in Mark's account. Maybe it's in John's account, actually. I did this for a message study. When Jesus feeds the 5,000, so he was going to get away. 5,000 men plus women and children meet him. He feeds them all with 5 loaves and 2 fish, right? Very famous story. And then it says that the people were going to make him king by force. Like, they were ready to crown him king. And so he withdraws up the mountain by himself again until sometime in the middle of the night.
Yes, he just leaves.
He just leaves.
He just leaves.
Right.
And there's a reason.
In the crescendo of everything, when they're like, he's going to be the new king of Jerusalem. He's going to overthrow the empire. And he's like, I'm out.
Yeah, and he has to get out of there because if he would have stepped into that, he would have stepped into sin.
Yeah. Come on.
And so he has to retreat because that's not the reason he would have violated the boundaries set on him by his Father, by his heavenly Father.
Right.
So every single person must come to him through faith, not through some sort of, I don't want to call it manipulation because Jesus wouldn't have been manipulating anybody just by simply coming out and saying, I am God.
Yeah. Right.
I'm the savior of the world. He wouldn't have been manipulating anybody, but what he would have done is eliminated faith.
Yeah. Yeah.
So the 12 disciples who followed him for 3 years came to saving knowledge in Jesus Christ through faith.
That's right.
Not because Jesus told them. And it's proven in his conversation with Peter. Peter, who do you say I am?
Yeah.
I say you are the Christ.
You're the Christ, the Son of God.
Son of God.
Yeah.
Peter said it, not Jesus.
Right.
That's because Peter came to saving knowledge through faith.
Yeah.
In Jesus Christ.
And as I'm just reading through the Gospels again, you can see the progression of faith in the disciples. Because at the very beginning of their ministry, you can Jesus constantly like, why don't you have faith? Like, you have little faith. Like,
yes.
Or they're asking, they're kind of asking all the wrong questions. And then towards the end, because that moment of when he asked them, that's kind of towards the end of his ministry. Right after that, he sets his face towards Jerusalem and goes to the cross. That's when they're finally, and he's been telling them, this is what's happening. This is what's going on. There's the parables. And then they're finally starting to get it right there towards the end.
Yeah, so Jesus would retreat when he noticed the people were trying to force him into a position that he did not come to the world to do. He would then retreat.
Yeah, man, that's really good.
Yeah, he would step away from that. He was going to step into the incorrect will for his life.
Yeah.
And so should we do that like Jesus does that? Yeah. Yeah. If there is a situation where it feels like you are about to step outside of the will of God for your life, you should retreat.
Come on. That's good.
You should separate yourself from it. So obviously, the most basic logical thing you can think of about, stepping outside of the will of the Lord would be stepping into sin.
Yeah.
So don't retreat from that.
Yeah.
But what's more complex than that is when people want to crown you and give you power and leadership outside of the will of God for your life. And that is more complicated and more difficult to retreat from.
Yeah.
Because without prayer, it might feel right.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And so Jesus is constantly in prayer, I think, to make sure that when I approach the next day, when the sun comes out tomorrow, God, I want to make sure that I'm not stepping into a position or a place that you have not called me to. Mm-hmm. And it's crazy to think about that Jesus never had a conversation with somebody where he manipulated them or coerced them into believing in him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
That's crazy to think about because he wants to spend eternity with all humanity. It's his will that none would perish.
Yeah.
And so he's constantly fighting, I think, this desire to reveal himself fully. Mm-hmm. But he can't.
Yeah.
Because nobody comes to the Father except through Jesus. And the only way you come truly through Jesus is with faith.
Come on. Yeah, that's so good. And I think, I was just thinking about this as you were talking, and we're actually pretty close to being out of time here, so maybe we can kind of wrap up with this maybe, is Jesus did this constantly where he went away, he spent all night, sometimes days in prayer.
Yeah, days away.
Just away from the crowd, making sure that he was making the right decisions. And it got me thinking, how often do I spend some time away specifically in prayer, seeking direction in my life? Because I'll go a couple times a year on a vacation to take a break from work. But am I using that time to make sure that I'm in prayer, that I'm making the right decisions in my life? Even daily when am I spending time with God to, check that box? I spent time with God today? Or God, I want to be so close and intimate with your Holy Spirit today that I am right in the middle of your will for my life. Mm-hmm. And I think that maybe there's a little bit of a difference, and it's something that I wanted to implement. It actually was a part of the reason why I kind of changed my fast up coming into this week. I want to make sure that the time that I'm spending is very intentional in prayer, asking God, am I in the middle of your will for my life right now? And if not, help me to identify it and start making changes.
Let's end with this last thought this last story. I want to share a story here.
Okay, let's do it.
To end, I was this is probably a month ago, listening to a testimony message from a minister, and before he got saved and was a full-time minister, he was an engineer.
Okay.
And very, very, very smart man.
Yeah.
And logical mindset and all this stuff. So he gets saved and he's completely on fire for the Lord. He completely quits his job. He decides to just do the will of the Lord for his life.
Wow.
I mean,
that's amazing.
That's true salvation.
Amazing.
Right?
Yeah.
That's what everybody should be doing. And so he still has this amazing engineer brain.
Okay.
So he asked this question to himself because he believes that his time is so important. He wants to just use it wisely. So he asks himself this very selfish question. And he admits that it's a selfish question when he's talking. He says, I wonder how much time I need to spend with the Lord every single day and just be good.
Okay.
What's the minimum amount of time?
Yeah. Right.
That's what he asked. He's like, what's the minimum amount of time?
Yeah.
Because then I want to just do that and then get to work. And he starts diving in and doing some research. And he says, long story short, I was come to find out 2 hours a day is the minimum amount of time that anybody should be spending with the Lord before they start off their day.
Wow.
And the guy's like, 2 hours. The guy interviewing him, he's like, 2 hours? That's a lot. And he goes, I was shocked. He goes, but it turns out it takes about 2 hours in the Lord's presence to wash away the world, to begin to think like the mind of Christ. And I thought to myself, without a doubt, because we spend hours of our day in the world.
Oh, yeah.
We're getting discipled by the world, whether we believe it or not. Every show we watch, commercial, billboard we see, doesn't matter. It's just filling your brain with worldly desires and worldly thoughts, and you need to wash all that away. Mm-hmm. That's why Jesus would retreat.
Yeah.
Wash it all away, make sure I'm in the will of the Lord, and I go forward now. And he discovered 2 hours a day.
Man.
Yeah. Think about that. Isn't that crazy?
That is crazy. That is crazy.
It's a lot to think about, isn't it?
Yeah, it is. This has been a hearty bowl podcast stew.
Thick.
Just meat and potatoes kind of stew.
This stew is so thick, cut it with a knife.
More like a meatloaf.
Yeah, there you go. This has been one hearty loaf of meat. It's been hearty. Oh, it's been great to be with you today, audience.
It's been a good one. It's been good.
I like meatloaf.
I do too.
We're both hungry.
Oh, I'm so hungry.
These are food fouls during a fast right now. All right, everybody. It's great to be with you. Catch you on the next one.
Bye, everybody.
Youth and Young Adult Podcast. Youth and Young Adult Podcast. Youth and Young Adult Podcast.